Marley Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I will show you part 2 of the Lacy Isosceles shawl. You learned how to do the beginning and the increases and how to read the chart in part 1. Part 2, you will learn how to do the decreases, reading the chart for the decreases, and the final edging. If you need the video for part 1, go ahead and click on the little I button right there at the top of the screen, or look in the video description box below for all the information you need regarding this shawl. While you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button, as my kids say, to let people know you enjoyed this video. Now, by this point, you've already completed up to row 54 of your shawl and you're ready to jump in. So let's go ahead and do it. By the end of the part 1 video, I left you with the chart that looked like this. As you look down here, I showed you how the increases were getting made by building a double crochet into that treble, putting a single into the double, and then you have a new large V-stitch. And then you had to do that again. So that way you could create one large V-stitch for the red and then one large V-stitch for the black, as represented in the chart. By the time you finish row 54, you have 9 large V-stitches across. Now what I've done is I have created my sample to be a direct representation of what we're looking at in the chart, which is really convenient because as I get rid of the increase section right here and I pull in the decrease section, what we can see here is this is exactly my final row 54 as it's represented in the chart that I just completed. So row 54 is right here, and you can see it says last row of increase section, which is really important to note because you are not going to repeat this row. This red row right here, you're not going to repeat that because you've already completed it at this point. That is row 54. So on my little swatch here, let me pull it into play here. I have gone ahead and switched colors. Now you will not switch colors. You will continue on with your Super Saver ombre yarn, but I have gone ahead and switched colors so that way you can easily see where I have begun my decreases as opposed to where my increases were worked, okay? So this row right here that I did in the nice pretty teal color is actually my row 54. And the reason I chose to do row 54 in a different color is because it is showing row 54 on the actual chart. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are they showing row 54 if I don't have to do row 54? Well, the answer is simple. They want you to be able to easily see where you're putting the stitches for row 55. And to do that, they present row 54 on there to show that how it would look on yours. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully it does. As we look down here at row 55 and we begin to read across, we can start to decipher how the decreases are going to get made. Just as we did all of our shaping out here on the outside edge with our increases, we will do that again with our decreases. So if the other side of the graph or the chart was over here, we would have our increases coming out, and now we're having our decreases come back down. And just as I mentioned in this chart, when we worked our double crochets into the treble and then we put a single into the double, so on and so forth, so that way we could get more large V-stitches. When we work our decrease side, we don't want those large V-stitches anymore, so we want to eliminate them. So what will happen is, instead of placing another large V-stitch into this single crochet as we did when we did our increases, we will simply put just a double crochet right there. And then on the following row, we will skip completely over that double crochet just like it doesn't exist and continue on with our pattern. So what this has done is this is eliminated because remember that single is in top of a large V-stitch. So it has eliminated that row of V-stitches, of large V-stitches, okay? And then as you carry on and we get over here to row 57 and 58, by the time we get to 58 and we put a double crochet into that single, we've eliminated this row of large V-stitches. See how this is working? And then we continue on, go on, so on and so forth. And by the time you get to row 61, instead of placing a large V-stitch on top of that single crochet, what do you think you do? You would come back here to the repeat and you would place another double crochet on top of that single crochet, eliminating this row of large V-stitches. So far, there's nothing new. You know all of these stitches. We have been working these stitches all along. The difference here is that instead of having a stitch repeat that we're increasing, we are going to have a stitch repeat that we're decreasing. So let's go ahead and work through the decrease row repeat and then take a look at the pattern and the instructions as they pertain to the next part of our chart, okay? So let's go ahead, pick up our work here, and you'll notice in the written instructions that the designer, Lisa Gentry, wanted you to put a stitch marker at the end of row 54. So this is like the point of your shawl. So I put a stitch marker right there. And I will continue on with row 55 by putting a beginning V-stitch right here at the start, and then I just follow along in pattern as I've been doing all along. And I won't do any sort of shaping until I get to my shaping edge, which, if you remember from part 1, I indicated by putting 2 stitch markers into the edge, so that way I knew that that was my shaping edge. And if you have a stitch marker that's a different color than all the others, you could totally do that instead, but that was my way of trying to get around, trying to find another stitch marker, right? So let's see here. I just did my single crochet, and I'm going to do another large V-stitch. You know how to do all these stitches. This is nothing new at this point, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we will do a treble right here. Cool, and then chain 3. And we put a single right here and chain 3. And this is where we normally have been building with another large V-stitch, correct? But this time we want to decrease, so we will put a double crochet into that single crochet. That's as easy as it gets, right? That's our decrease right there, because we are not going to build another large V-stitch. Then we finish off with the chain 3, and then our final V-stitch into our edge. Okay, so we've already started to create our decrease edge. Here we go. You ready? So we will now move on to row 56. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will turn my work. This is my beginning V-stitch right here. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And whereas before I would have put a single crochet into that double, right? Because I wanted to do increases. This time I'm going to ignore that double. I'm going to pretend it's not even there. I will jump over all of these stitches over to this single crochet. And what do we do in the single crochets? We put a large V-stitch. So I will do that. And then I will finish off this row in my normal pattern, just like I have been creating the shawl this entire way. So all of my decreases are happening over here simply by putting fewer stitches, less, how should I say that? Simply by putting fewer stitches and less sizely stitches. Is that even a word? You know what I mean though. That's how we are going to create our decreases. Let me finish this row and get to the next row. I'm on my final V-stitch of this particular row, and I'm ready to jump over and do my next row. So my next row is row 57. So we just completed 56 going back this direction. So 57, I will come back this direction. Have any of you noticed yet that the decrease repeat is also 6 rows, just like the increase row repeat was? So we are still working 6 rows because not only do we have to decrease one of the large V-stitches in black, we also have to decrease one of the large V-stitches in red, as they're indicated on the chart. Makes sense? Hopefully it does. I am going to work in pattern once again all the way to my shaping edge, and that's where things begin to change up a little bit, okay? So once I complete this row, I will actually have fewer large V-stitches, and we'll take a look and see how that worked out, okay? So let me get over to the end of this row and talk you through how these decreases are working out. I'm to the end of the row, and I'm getting ready to do my chain 3. And you remember that before, this is where I would have done my double crochet into my treble, right, to increase. But I don't want to do that because I'm decreasing. So I simply skip over all of that, come over here to my edge and work my beginning V-stitch. How easy is that? It's literally just skipping all those stitches. And what we have done here by just working those 3 rows, so 55, 56, and 57, we have eliminated this entire row of large V-stitches. So now as we continue on with 58, 59, and 60, we are going to now eliminate this entire row of large V-stitches. They will no longer be created anymore. And you continue on working that, and it will slowly decrease each one of these until we get down to where we have just 1 left. And just as we began, as I pull in the beginner, this is our increase one. See how we began with just 1 row of red large V-stitches? We are going to actually end with 1 row of large V-stitches. So this is what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and finish row 58, 59, and 60 together, and then I will let you carry on and get to row 96, and then we will follow the rest of the pattern. Okay, so let's do 58. So here we are. We're moving on to 58. 58 is real simple, and we begin our decrease again. So I start off with my beginning V-stitch just like I did before, chain 3, and right here I'm going to put a double into this single crochet right there. Okay, so this is where things are changing. Remember, on single crochets we used to always do another large V-stitch, but I don't want this V-stitch to continue, so I'm just going to do a double crochet into that single crochet right there. Wah, 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 your days are done. Large V-stitch section. And now I just carry on just like I did before. Okay, so I did my double, chain 3, now I put a single into this, and I carry on just like I have the whole other part of the pattern, because this is the pattern stitch repeat, right? The only place it changes is on the outside shaping edge, which is really convenient. And I know that yours is taking a little bit longer because yours is a little bit wider than mine at this point. Mine only had 3 V-stitches across and yours had 9. But you can get the concept here as we are working across, right? It's because only shaping is at the very edge. And you know where that edge is because you have it marked, either with 2 stitch markers or a different colored stitch marker, or maybe you have some other way to mark it off and just know where it is. Totally up to you. So I am going to finish this row, chain 3, and then finish off with my beginning V-stitch. We know how to do these stitches. I'm not going to go slow because you've been doing this so long at this point. You should know how these stitches work out. And I know that many of you are probably just going to skip over this section because you're just like, Marley, you're talking so much. I don't need to see that because I know what's going on. But there are those of you who still want to see me work through this section together. And so that's why I'm taking the time to do it. And I'm really trying to explain what's going on. So this is where we are. We are on row 59. So I just did my beginning V-stitch, chain 3, and I'm going to skip all the way over right here to the large V-stitch and work my single crochet. Just like we've been doing, nothing new. This is the same stitch pattern repeat we've been going along. And now I jump over here to the single crochet and I will do my large V-stitch for 5 and then work a treble. And then I will chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Come over here, do my single crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Work another large V-stitch into this single crochet. So there is my treble, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And work my next treble to complete that large V-stitch. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is where things get interesting, right? Because I'm not going to do anything in that double crochet. I'm going to skip over all of these stitches and work a regular V-stitch all the way over here at the edge. So there's my double, chain 1, and a double. Pretty simple. We move on to row 60. So I will begin with my beginning V-stitch right here. Row 60, that's where we are. There's my beginning V-stitch. So this is where we are. I will chain 3, I will skip over all of this, and I will just work in my pattern all the way back here to the end. So let's do that together. 1, 2, 3. Skip over all of this, work a single crochet into the chain 5 space, 1, 2, 3, and continue on, correct? So I will put a large V-stitch into the single crochet. And a large V-stitch. Nope, I apologize. I'm finishing with the treble for that large V-stitch. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Put my single crochet over here into this large V-stitch, chain 3. Put a large V-stitch into this single crochet. And then finish this one off. Chain 3. And then for me, I'm to my end, so I will go ahead, do my double, chain 1, and my double. Okay? So that is row 60, and if I set this down, this is what we're starting to look at, okay? So we can see here, here are my 2 stitch markers representing my edge. This was my shaping edge, correct? So this is where I did my increases, and then this is my beginning point, right? And then here's where I start to do my decreases. So we have done 6 rows of our decrease repeat. So this is 1 full repeat of our decrease. So you would continue repeating these 6 rows for another 6 times, which gets you to row 96. Now, what you will do, or what you will notice, is when you get to row 96, you are ready to jump to row 97, and the chart here, as it's divided here, this chart for row 97 is a direct representation of what you will be doing on your shawl at this point, okay? So your shawl, by the time you get to row 96, will actually look just like mine does right here, okay? So that's the only difference, is we'll get to that point. Then as you get to row 97, you can see the stitches, they are just like we've been doing all along. We're coming across, we're putting a double into the single, then we're skipping that stitch, and we're carrying on. So what will happen here is you will eliminate that row of large V-stitches, and then on the next set of 3 rows, you'll eliminate that row of V-stitches. On the next 3 rows, you'll eliminate that row of V-stitches, and you will be left with 1 row of V-stitches, this 1 row of red, just like we started with, okay? So what I want you to do now is you will repeat those last 6 rows we just did. And the repeat portion, just so that we are clear, the repeat portion is out here, okay? You see how this works? I probably should kick over one, but it's the single, double, and then we don't do anything for 2 rows. And then, well, in the sense that you don't work into that double. So you don't work into that double, you come across, you do the single, you don't work into anything, and then you put a double into the single, then you don't work into it, and you come across. That's how we are going to decrease, okay? So you will repeat this outside section, eliminating one of those large V-stitches until you get to 97. At 97, you will only have this many left. So by the time you get done with 98, 99, and 100, 100 will be like, that's the last time you will ever work into the single crochet that works into this row of large V-stitches. Row 103 is the last time you will work into the single crochet that works into the row of those large V-stitches. And then when you get done with row 105, 105 is where you put a single crochet for the last time into this row of large V-stitches. Then I want you to meet me back here for row 106. I want to show you how to do row 106, 107, and 108, okay? So that's your mission. Go ahead and get through row 105 at this point. Join me back here for 106, 107, and 108. After that, we'll do those 3. After that, it's the edging. You finished row 105, you're ready for 106, let's jump in. 106 has us begin with the chain 4, and that chain 4 is going to count as a treble crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can turn and do your chain 4 or whatever you want to do, it's totally up to you. Now we have to do a treble crochet into that double crochet. So I've yarned over my hook 3 times or twice, just like I'm supposed to do a treble. I'm actually going into the actual double crochet, and I will complete my treble crochet. Now I have to do a treble crochet into the single, so I will do that. Then I skip over here and I will put a treble into this double and a treble into the third chain of that turning chain. So let's do a treble right here into this double, and then we will do a treble into the third chain of our turning chain. So there is a treble right there. That is the end of row 106. When we come to row 107, we have a new symbol here that we haven't seen. And so it looks like they're treble crochets, correct? But what you're going to notice the difference of them is that they both are coming to a final stop, right? There's one top hat. So both of these stitches are going to create one final stitch. And the same thing applies when we get to row 108. All three of those stitches come together to create one final stitch. So to create a treble crochet two together, we will do this. So I will turn my work. We'll start off with our chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over your hook twice, just like you're going to begin a treble crochet. Now, we will go into this stitch right here. So that's the first one we're supposed to go into. So go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, and stop. So I have 2 loops on my hook. Yarn over your hook twice, go into the next stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, and stop. You're left with 3 loops on your hook and 2 partially completed treble crochets. At this point, you will yarn over and draw through all 3 of those loops. So now those 2 trebles became 1 stitch, and we ate up that stitch and that stitch. Now we want to do it again, and we're going to eat up this one and this one. So we yarn over our hook twice, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, and stop. Yarn over your hook twice, go into the next stitch, which is a 4 chain, so we're going to go into the 4th chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2, and stop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, draw through all 3 loops. So we have left here with our turning chain, 1 stitch there and 1 stitch there. That's row 107. For 108, this is the final bit, okay? So we will chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, and we're going to do 3 single crochet a single crochet 3 together. So what we will do is go into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the 4th chain of the final stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, draw through all 4 loops. And let's go ahead and let me move this stuff out of the way and take a look at what our little sample is down here. And this sample is a direct representation of the charts as they're presented in the pattern. We actually started over here with the purple and we increased out. You'll notice we increased on this edge right here. Increase, increase until we got to the point in the chart that we were supposed to stop. And then we did 1 row of my row 54, which would have been row 18. I did it in the blue color, remember, because I marked it right here. And then I began to do my decreases, and I decreased down until I got to the end over here. And so this is essentially, let me see if I'll hold it up. This is essentially what your shawl will look like, obviously in a grander scale. Pretty simple, right? The last thing for this is to add an edging. You've completed your shawl, and all you need now is that final touch, right? It's a simple little edging. Now this edging is called an edging V-stitch in your pattern, and it's important to point out so that you can look up in the special stitches of your pattern to find out what the edging V-stitch is. And it is really simple. Take a look down here. As you work across the different rows of your shawl, you are actually going to do a slip stitch in the row, chain 3, and then do a half double crochet, all in the end of that row. Then you will slip stitch into the next row, chain 3, and do a half double crochet. Slip stitch into the next row, chain 3, half double crochet. What that does is it gives you a really good looking scallop sort of look. And it's as simple as just working into the edge stitches of all of the stitches all the way around. The one difference here is that in the marked stitch here, down here at the bottom, so this is the bottom of my shawl, okay? This is the tip where I would have marked a stitch on row 54 or marked that row. I will put 2 of those edging V-stitches into that marked stitch. So right here there is a slip stitch, chain 3, half double, slip stitch, chain 3, half double, all into that row. And that's really just to delineate that particular point of the shawl. Really easy. You can do this really easily. Let me get you started so that way you don't have any questions about it. I went ahead and fastened off my work at the end because I was using a different color, and because I really want you to be able to see the edging stitches, I am using that teal color against the purple color that I started off with, so that way you can easily see it. So I am going to jump in here as if my yarn is already attached, and I begin with a slip stitch into this end of this row, and then I would chain 3 and then work a half double crochet. For a half double crochet, you yarn over, go into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. That's easy, right? So I go to the next row, I do a slip stitch, chain 3, and then a half double crochet. Go to the next row, do a slip stitch, chain 3, and then do a half double crochet. Go to the next row, do a slip stitch, chain 3, and then do a half double crochet. And I would do this all the way around, and you can see you get a really cool scallop look. And remember, you would want to do 2 of these edging V-stitches in your marked stitch, so your marked point down here. Now, I marked my point up here, and it wasn't a point, it's just I happened to mark that row, but I know what row it is because I changed colors. Just remember, when you mark it down here at this end, and you'll know that at the end of that particular row, right there, that's where I want to make sure I do 2 of my edging V-stitches. Once that's all complete, you go all the way around the shawl this way, you join with the slip stitch, cut your tail and weave them in, and you are done. You now have a completed lacy isosceles crochet shawl, and I know that you're simply going to love it. I am a big fan of this shawl. I think Lisa Gentry did a very good job choosing a rather simple stitch to really highlight the yarn. This yarn is simply stunning, and it does all of the work for you just by changing colors, don't you think? And once again, this is Red Heart Super Saver Ombre yarn, and it changes colors on its own, and it's tonal, it's gradual, it's simply beautiful. You can find this pattern available at redheart.com. All the information you need for this pattern, this yarn, and everything else is available in the video description box below. And don't forget to smash that like button. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you will hit subscribe so you're up to date whenever there's a new video released right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. If you want to be the first to know, go ahead and click the little bell button that is right next to subscribe, and it will ding you whenever I release a new video, which is great because then you will know when you can join me again to improve your knitting and crochet skills. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarn, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye. I really hope you enjoyed this video and you will share my channel with your friends. Remember, sharing is caring. Smash that like button.